This engine just grenaded on the dyno at 9,000 revolutions per minute. It's the fifth one this month, and Bugatti has 9 months to fix it or lose $300 million. Welcome to Bugatti's engineering facility in Molsheim, France, where, for the past 5 years, a team of 200 engineers has been attempting something that most of the automotive industry thinks is completely insane. They're building a naturally aspirated V16 engine that revs to 9,500 revolutions per minute, produces 1,000 horsepower without any turbos, and somehow meets 2030 European emission standards. Oh, and it has to be reliable enough that billionaires can drive it without it exploding. The problem is, nobody's built a high-revving, naturally aspirated engine for a production car in almost 20 years. The technology is considered obsolete, outdated, a relic from a time before turbos and hybrids took over. But Bugatti just bet the entire company on bringing it back. And if they fail, this could be the last Bugatti ever built. My name's on the extremely short list of journalists allowed inside this development process. And what I witnessed over the past 6 months is either the greatest engineering achievement in modern automotive history or the most expensive mistake a car company has ever made. Let me show you which one it is. Okay, so to understand why Bugatti is taking this insane risk, you need to know what they're replacing. The Bugatti Chiron, which has been in production since 2016, uses a quad-turbocharged W16 engine. It's basically 2 V8s joined together. 16 cylinders, 4 turbochargers, 1,500 horsepower, and a top speed of 304 miles per hour that broke the world record. Real quick, drop a comment. Have you ever seen a Chiron in person? Because I'm curious how many people have actually spotted one of these in the wild. But here's the problem. Bugatti faces new European emissions regulations that take effect in 2030 basically make the W16 impossible to continue producing. The fines for exceeding emissions limits would be around 50,000 euros per car. When you're only building 250 cars total, that's an extra 12.5 million euros in fines. That's not sustainable, even for a company that sells $3 million cars. So in 2019, Bugatti's engineering team had 3 options. Option 1. Go fully electric. Build a battery-powered hypercar like Rimac or Lotus. Option 2. Do what everyone else is doing and build a smaller turbocharged hybrid. Cut the engine size, add electric motors, meet the regulations. Option 3. Do something absolutely insane that nobody thinks will work. They chose option 3. And the man who made that decision was Mate Rimac, a 35-year-old Croatian entrepreneur who just bought Bugatti from Volkswagen and merged it with his electric hypercar company. Everyone expected him to electrify Bugatti immediately. Instead, he did the opposite. Rimac's philosophy was simple. Bugatti customers don't want an electric car. They can buy a Rimac for that. They want an engine that makes their soul vibrate. So we're going to build the greatest combustion engine ever created. And then we're going to add electric motors to make it even more insane. And that's how the Bugatti Tourbillon project was born. A naturally aspirated V16 engine making 1,000 horsepower, 3 electric motors adding another 800 horsepower for a total of 1,800 horsepower. No turbos, no superchargers, just a screaming 16-cylinder engine that revs higher than any production car engine ever built. On paper, it looked incredible. In reality, they had no idea if it was actually possible to build. So here's what makes building a high-revving, naturally aspirated V16 so incredibly difficult. Every single component has to be both extremely light and extremely strong. At 9,500 revolutions per minute, the piston acceleration forces are absolutely brutal. We're talking about pistons changing direction from up to down 158 times per second. The mechanical stresses are insane. Bugatti partnered with Cosworth, the legendary British engine builder that's been making Formula One engines for decades. And even Cosworth's engineers thought the targets were borderline impossible. They needed the engine to weigh less than 250 kilograms, produce at least 1,000 horsepower, rev to 9,500 revolutions per minute, and run for at least 50,000 kilometers without a rebuild. Pause right here and take a guess. How much does a single connecting rod in this engine cost to manufacture? Drop your guess in the comments, then keep watching for the answer. Here's the answer. Each connecting rod is machined from a single piece of titanium and costs 1,800 euros. 1,800 euros for one connecting rod. There are 16 of them in the engine. That's almost 29,000 euros just in connecting rods. And that's before they're even assembled. The first prototype V16 went on the Dyno in March 2021. The target was 8,000 revolutions per minute and 800 horsepower for the initial test. They got to 7,200 revolutions per minute and the crankshaft snapped. Complete catastrophic failure. Metal shrapnel everywhere. 3 months of work destroyed in 8 seconds. This is the room they don't show in the press releases. Bugatti calls it the learning library. I call it the graveyard of very expensive mistakes. There are 17 prototype engines in here. Each one represents a different failure mode that taught the engineers something critical about what doesn't work. Crankshaft number 3 failed at 8,400 revolutions per minute due to harmonic vibration. Piston set number 7, titanium too brittle, fractured at high temperature. Valve train number 12, valve float at 9,200 revolutions per minute. Contact with piston crown, catastrophic damage. Every single failure cost between 80,000 and 200,000 euros to investigate and fix. By late 2022, Bugatti had spent over 40 million euros just on engine development, and they still hadn't achieved the 9,500 RPM target. The board was getting nervous. Mate Rimac was defending the project, but there were real conversations about whether they should abandon the V16 and go with a more conventional hybrid V8. And then, in January 2023, breakthrough. Engine prototype number 18 hit 9,000 revolutions per minute on the dyno and held it for 30 seconds without exploding. The engineering team literally cheered. People were crying, because for the first time in 4 years, they had proof that this engine could actually work. Okay, but the V16 is only part of the equation. The Tourbillon also has 3 electric motors and a battery pack that have to work seamlessly with the combustion engine. And this is where Rimac's electric car experience became absolutely critical. The front axle gets 2 electric motors, one for each wheel, producing 250 kilowatts total. The rear axle gets 1 electric motor integrated between the V16 and the transmission, adding another 150 kilowatts. Combined, that's 800 horsepower from electricity on top of the 1,000 from the V16. Before I explain how they made this work, smash that like button if you think 1,800 horsepower is absolutely insane and completely unnecessary. Because you're right, and that's exactly why it's amazing. The battery pack is actually the smallest part of the hybrid system. It's only 25 kilowatt hours, which is tiny compared to a Tesla Model 3's 75 kilowatt hour pack. But Bugatti doesn't need range. They need weight savings and power density. This battery pack weighs just 120 kilograms and can discharge at 800 kilowatts continuously. That's absurd power density. But here's what makes the Tourbillon genuinely special from an engineering perspective. The power management system can distribute all 1,800 horsepower across 4 wheels independently in real time. The front motors can torque vector to help the car turn. The rear motor can fill in power during gear shifts. The V16 can shut down at low speeds and run purely electric. It's not just powerful, it's intelligent. This is the first time anyone outside Bugatti has seen the Tourbillon actually moving. These are prototype validation tests at Nardo high-speed ring in southern Italy. The car you're looking at is doing 230 miles per hour on a banked oval, running full power, heat-soaking the battery and engine, and the engineers are monitoring every single sensor to make sure nothing is about to explode. What you're seeing on these telemetry screens is data from over 400 sensors. Engine temperature, battery temperature, motor temperature, gearbox temperature, brake temperature, tire pressure, suspension position, aerodynamic load, G-forces, everything. If anything goes wrong at 230 miles per hour, they need to know about it instantly. The test driver is Andy Wallace, the same guy who drove the Chiron to its 304 mile per hour world record. And he told me something fascinating. The Tourbillon feels like two completely different cars depending on the drive mode. In electric mode, it's quiet and smooth like a Tesla. In full performance mode, with the V16 screaming at 9,000 revolutions per minute, it's the most violent, aggressive car I've ever driven. And switching between those two personalities takes 1 second. Alright, so they've got an engine that works and a hybrid system that's genuinely impressive. But none of it matters if the car can't meet emissions regulations. And this is where the engineering gets really clever. The Tourbillon has 4 catalytic converters. 4. Most cars have 1, maybe 2. Bugatti has 4 because at 9,500 revolutions per minute, you need an absolutely massive catalyst surface area to clean the exhaust gases before they exit the tailpipes. Each catalyst costs €12,000 and contains platinum, palladium, and rhodium. Quick question for the comments. Do you think emissions regulations are pushing car companies to innovate, or are they killing the cars we actually want?
I genuinely want to know what you think. But the real secret to meeting emissions is the hybrid system. Here's how it works. Under the official European emissions test cycle, the car runs primarily on electric power. The V16 only starts when the battery is depleted or when you demand full power. In real-world driving, Bugatti estimates the car will run on electricity about 30% of the time in normal use. This hybrid strategy gets the Tourbillon's official emissions down to 199 grams of CO2 per kilometer, which is just under the 200-gram threshold that triggers the massive fines. It's technically compliant, but everyone knows that if you actually drive this car the way it was designed to be driven, you're probably getting single-digit miles per gallon and emissions way higher than that. And this is where I have to be honest with you, the Tourbillon meets emissions regulations on paper, but it's kind of gaming the system. The emissions tests weren't designed for 1,800 horsepower hypercars. They were designed for normal cars. So Bugatti engineered the car to pass the test, not necessarily to be genuinely environmentally friendly. Is that hypocritical? Maybe. Is it dishonest? I don't think so. Bugatti is following the regulations as written, but it does raise the question of whether regulations designed for mass-market cars should apply to vehicles where the total production run is 250 units. Mate Rimac's response when I asked him about this: "We're building 250 cars over 5 years. That's 50 cars per year." The environmental impact of 50 hypercars is literally a rounding error compared to mass-market production. But we still follow the regulations because that's what's required. If the lawmakers think that's not enough, they should write different rules. Drop a comment. Is Bugatti right that 250 hypercars don't matter for emissions, or should luxury brands be held to even higher standards? Let me know where you stand. So after 5 years, 47 engine prototypes, €300 million in development costs, and probably a few nervous breakdowns, Bugatti finally unveiled the Tourbillon to the public in June 2024, and the automotive world's reaction was complicated. Some journalists called it the last great combustion engine car ever built. Others said, an anachronism that proves Bugatti doesn't understand the future. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Here's my take after 6 months embedded with this project. The Tourbillon is genuinely the most advanced naturally aspirated combustion engine car ever created. The engineering is spectacular. The hybrid system is sophisticated. The performance is absolutely bonkers. But it's also a car that probably shouldn't exist in 2024. We're watching the end of an era in real time. 10 years from now, maybe even 5 years from now, regulations will make cars like the Tourbillon impossible to build. Not because the technology doesn't work, but because the political and social climate won't allow it. This is the automotive equivalent of building a cathedral in the age of skyscrapers. It's beautiful, it's impressive, but it belongs to a different time. But that's exactly why it matters. Bugatti didn't build the Tourbillon because it makes financial sense. They built it because they wanted to prove that combustion engines can still be art, that engineering can still be emotional, that cars can still make your soul vibrate, even in an era where the smart choice is to go electric. Every Tourbillon engine is hand-assembled by a single technician over the course of 3 weeks. That technician's signature goes on a plaque on the engine. When a customer buys a Tourbillon for 4 million euros, they're not just buying a car, they're buying the last gasp of an entire philosophy of automotive engineering. Comment V16 if you think this engine should be preserved in a museum someday. Because honestly, that's probably where it'll end up. So did Bugatti's $300 million gamble pay off? Financially, probably. All 250 build slots sold out within 2 months of the announcement at 4 million euros each. That's €1 billion in revenue. When you subtract the 300 million in development costs, Bugatti is going to make money on this project. But the real question isn't about money, it's about legacy. 20 years from now, when every car on the road is electric and silent, the Bugatti Tourbillon will be remembered as the car company that refused to go quietly. That spent a fortune to build one last monument to the combustion engine. And whether you think that's beautiful or foolish probably says more about you than it does about Bugatti. If you made it this far, here's what I need from you. Subscribe to this channel. We're going inside the development of cars that you're not supposed to see. Next month, I'm going to Porsche's top-secret testing facility to see the all-electric 718. The month after that, we're going to Maranello to see how Ferrari is approaching electrification. You don't want to miss any of this. Second, turn on notifications. YouTube's algorithm is weird, and if that bell isn't on, you'll miss these videos when they drop. And third, watch this video next. It's about the Rimac Nevera, the electric hypercar that mate Rimac built before he bought Bugatti. The engineering is absolutely insane, and it'll give you context for why he approached the Tourbillon the way he did. The Bugatti Tourbillon is the end of something, whether it's the end of combustion engines, the end of automotive romance, or just the end of Bugatti as we know it. I'm not sure yet. But I'm grateful I got to witness it. I'll see you in the next one.